Hey everybody, and welcome to EGI2's U Game Reviews 2. Oh man, the contrast is really intense. This is the show where you get to call in and review video games, and I respond to them, and I've got some great new responses, in case you can't quite decide if the game is a or a. And then we also have a this is just breaking news right here, which is that okay, I think there must be a filter on top of everything. Hold on for one moment, please. There we go. Much better. Well, now I look all washed out, so I'm gonna actually just take a second here to. Well, I just want to point out one thing here, which is that I do have a air quality monitor right here on my desk, showing that the air quality should be quite good right now. That's 14 is pretty decent for this time of year, and I am going to be trying to not sniffle and sneeze as much, because I'm sure that doesn't make a great sound bed for the show. Also, if you're noticing, I have a new microphone because I got sick and tired of desktop microphones, and this is just the regular microphone that I use on the show, but rather than having a lavalier wire go up my shirt, I will say that this one is perhaps my favorite sounding microphone so far, but the way that it looks is extremely upsetting. I do look a little blown out, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust that if I can. You guys can see if I can just add in a little bit of extra color here. It's not the worst thing that I've ever seen, but I don't think I look entirely like that. And it makes me feel bad about myself when I look like that. Great, that looks a little bit better. Hype train is starting, so you know what that means. It's time to tell a story, and tonight's story is, of course, keep forgetting the story button because I don't ever think that these stories are going to happen during the EGI2U game reviews show, but here it is, story time, and story time begins right now. And that story is the story of a little town, not little town, but a little town that was on top of the giant's head, and the giant's name was Gorn. It was Townhead. The giant's name was Townhead, and that was just his real name had been long forgotten. But the real name, but the name that he was colloquially known for was Townhead, because he had a little town on his head, and in that town there was a number of people. They were all, of course, very dutiful, religious people, and so they worshipped the head. They worshipped the top of the head, the scalp, you might say. They scraped the top of the giant's head for sustenance, getting dead skin and fibrous. They would take the hairs from the top of the giant's head, and then they would make ropes and fiber optic cables, which they would then use for their sort of media. Got a hair in my mouth. They would use those for running media into various devices that they had. They all had the people of Townhead had a really good media for such a small town and such a terrible situation to be on top of a giant's head. You have to really know where you're going to end up one day or the next, or maybe the giant would occasionally feel something itching on the top of his head, and he would scratch the head, and then large swaths of the town would be destroyed. And so, but as a result of that desperate living, the people of Townhead, Giant Head Townhead, would come together and create extremely robust and dynamic streaming services, which all obviously included live news in case there was a itching on the head that the giant needed to come down and itch the head to. Oh no, my nose is running. Sorry. So the giants, and so one day they decided that they wanted to know if there was any, because they had everybody in this town had known one thing, and that was that Townhead, the Giant Head Townhead, people of Giant Head Townhead had always wondered if there were other people out there in the universe, out there in the world, because they were getting to the point where things were getting quite desperate in terms of population growth. The replacement, of course, we all know from reading the newspapers that the replacement level of population growth is about 2.1 children per couple, but as a result of various concerns in terms of there not being a very diverse genetic pool through which to partner up and partner into, then people got worried that they were going to be procreating and creating a generation of people who may be related to each other, and so that just wasn't a good look for anybody, and they had already had some bad experiences with this before. So they started looking. Holy moly! Whew, sneezing. Okay. Thank you, Vertical Mammal. Thank you guys for the subs. We're starting out strong. I did want to say one thing before I forget what I'm doing, which is that this is, well, wait, let's get to the end of the story if we can, because this is an interesting story. Because the giant's name was Townhead, and then the town's name was Giant Head Townhead. And so I just wanted to make sure that we all understand this, and that this is an important distinction because there's two. Essentially, we're talking about two parallel stories that are happening side by side. The first story, of course, is the story of the giant who has a little town on his head, and the second story is about the collective of folks that live on top of Giant Head Townhead. So Townhead was wandering around one day in the forest, doing what normal people do in the forest, which is, finding, looking for what do people do in the forest? Looking for truffles, giant truffles, or perhaps making friends with various large animals, because giants being large humanoids, you can assume that there's also a great race of large animals that to go along with the humanoids. So those groups of beings were quite familiar and friendly with one another, and so he would go and look for friendship in the woods, while the desperate people of Giant Head Townhead tried to avoid having children so that they wouldn't have to worry about various genetic issues, bringing down the, not having to allocate more resources towards the care of this is a depressing story. The care of people with, let's just say, genetic. People that might have to spend a little bit more time in the hospital than normal healthy people that didn't make children with people that they were related to. And of course, this type of issue has been long a problem in various humanoid societies, going back as far as when we first ventured out of the central southern African steppe and ventured north into what we consider to be the cradle of civilization, and points east-west, and then back south, which I think is interesting. Some people just decided that they didn't like the look of the Fertile Crescent, so they went back down and stuck with what they knew, and there's nothing wrong with that. And some of the most dynamic societies who created some of the greatest works of art in existence are descended from those people who took one look at what was happening in the cities, prehistorical human settlements, and said no thanks, and went back. I forgot what I was saying. It's hard to take. Putnam says it's hard to take life seriously, and I find the same. I find myself finding a lot of humor in life, and I think that Giant Townhead was also someone who found a lot of humor in life, but he also found a lot of comfort from his friendship with large animals, with enormous animals. I'm talking, of course, not of course what we think of as large animals in our lives, where you might think of a giraffe or an elephant. No, these were just very large rats, and just sparrows were very common in these forests. And on top of that, there were also plenty of large stingrays in the various ponds to which the giant would Townhead, the giant, would go and bathe himself and kind of scrub off all of the lichens that would grow in his body, because he had a lot of skin issues, partially as a result of his own the limited genetic pool. And that's why we don't have giants anymore, partially because they ran out of healthy breeding population with which they could expand and evolve as a community. But beyond that, one day he walked to the pond, and to talk to his friend, the giant stingray. And the stingray, of course, flaps up, wiggling flaps, and the weird stingray mouth was doing its thing to speak just gobbledygook. That would be gobbledygook to what you and I would understand as language. But the giant, Townhead the giant, of course, understood these kinds of things. And he said, Townhead, you have a very large stick coming out of the top of your head today. So Townhead carefully, and he knows that there's a town up there, and he does try as best as he possibly can to not scrape or scratch on the head to destroy various buildings. I mean, because the more, sometimes, one time he got stung by a bee up there, and then the bump that the bee sting made had destroyed several houses in Giant Head Townhead. And he scratched the bite. He scratched the sting, and that caused a great deal of death every time he would scrape or slap. Sometimes, I mean, you know, when you get bitten on the head by something, a horsefly or something like that, you slap your head, and you can imagine that there was a bunch of minuscule little humanoids up there. Then that would be a terrible thing for them. And he, of course, didn't want to. He would want to, because he was a good person, a good giant. He was a friendly giant, and he didn't want to cause that much pain and suffering for the people who lived on his head. But so he carefully touches the top of his head, and and once you believe it, there is an antenna, a metal antenna coming out of the top of his head, and he says, "Well, what the heck is this kind of a thing?" So he enlists the help. So he says, "I would like to, if I could possibly have some kind of a communication with the people that live on my head, then perhaps we could get to the bottom of what this thing is, if this is some kind of a growth that I should be worried about, or if this is some kind of maybe they're making some, this could be a warning for me. Maybe they're putting a pin in it to tell me that there might be a tumor under there that they know about, because maybe they've noticed some discoloration on the scalp, and so what his friend, the giant stingray, whose name, of course, was Talos. Talos, the giant stingray, is very happy to oblige him with communicating with the various little, those little water gliders that you see sometimes in ponds. You guys know about water gliders? Sometimes they're called water striders. Maybe do people know what I'm talking about? So Talos, this giant stingray, recruits one of the water striders, skippers or skimmer bugs. Thank you for that, chat. And asks them to go up to the top of Townheads and to visit Giant Head Townhead to figure out what's going on. And unfortunately for them, even the skimmer was a little bit too big, and when the skimmer was sent to the top of the giant's head, it caused such a battle. I mean, a serious kind of. I mean, if you can imagine the City 17 levels of Half-Life 2, something like that, where you see some sort of a giant thing that with long, sticky legs, and it pokes people and just runs them through. So there is all these people from Giant Head Townhead that have been skewered on top of the skimmer water strider's legs, like they were some kind of a disgusting barbecue. And anyway, that's the hype train. I didn't quite get to the point where we were going to be exploring the more sexual elements of the story, but sometimes it takes a moment. You don't want to make sure it's not tacked onto there. You want to make sure that it's a natural sort of fit for the story. Hopefully hopefully this is doing a good job with the sound. And let's go ahead and get started with. Oh, you know what? I had something very important I forgot to do, which was log into the Google Voice account. So let's go ahead and take some calls if you are interested in reviewing games with us this evening. Oh, this is the other thing I was going to say about. There's one more new button, and that button is So I thought that was fun to do, and then there's that guy, and now everything is doing pretty good. We should be pretty well and good, ready to start. Missed a couple calls already, apologies. And here we go. Let's see who's on there. Hello, caller, you're on the air with EGI2. What's your game review? Already, apologies. And here we go.
Hello?
Yes, it's Robbie Rackleff from EGI2's You Game Reviews 2. What's happening?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Oh, you know what?
I can't hear you through the phone.
Can you hear me now?
I muted the stream, so I can't hear you there anymore either.
Uh-oh.
Hello, chat.
Speakers. Oh, dear goodness. Caller, can you hear me now?
No, yeah, I definitely can't. They can hear me. I can hear me. If I unmute the stream, I can hear you, but nobody wants that. Oh,
Okay,
heard a little
can you hear
blip.
me? Can you hear me now?
Oh, hello, Robbie. I
Hey,
hear you
how are you
now.
doing? This is Robbie Rackleff. Who am I talking to tonight?
This is Vertical Mammal, Zach
Hey,
from
Vertical
Washington
Mammal.
State.
Yes.
Yeah.
How are you doing? And I'm using a different microphone for you than I am for the show, so hopefully that's not causing too many issues sound wise.
Well, we got there in the end, and I think that's the important part.
Let me just double check that we're not okay. I think we should be. I think we should. Hello, Vertical Mammal. So this is the first. I don't know. Have we talked before on the phone?
I don't know. I don't think so. I've called into the Luke Man show, but I don't think I've ever called into any Wham City thing.
Oh, great. Well, this is so first time caller, but you've been a long time watcher and member of the EGI2 family. So let's hear what's going on.
Well, bad news. The game review is Resident Evil 0.
Resident Evil 0. Oh man.
Which I did play against the better advice of the EGI2 community in the Discord. And boy, it's a stinker. And
you're anti-Resident Evil 0. This is interesting because I can understand. I know a lot of people are on the fence, and sometimes I find myself on the same fence when it comes to Resident Evil 0. But here you are. You're taking it to the mat.
Yeah, and I know these reviews have a format, so I hate to skip ahead, but I think it's important to address the mechanics aspect of Resident Evil 0. And that's because they tried a new mechanic, a new form of inventory management, but it's just littering, which I am opposed to deeply and spiritually. So I can't condone a game that not only condones but requires littering.
Well, God Almighty, don't you know? And I apologize. I do have a bit of a runny nose, and I don't have any tissues in here with me, so you might have to see me do that a few times. I promise that I do wash the shirts after the shows, and there's just a great deal of we've had we've had a couple of Santa Ana wind events in the city, so that's kicked up a lot of pollen and made my sensitive my what do you call this, Vertical Mammal? Like what's the
allergy?
No, the sniffer.
Your nose?
Yes, that's what. So it's making my nose.
Sinuses.
My sinuses are actually probably not that bad. I do a kind of like a massage on the sinuses every once in a while because I saw a video of someone doing that on the internet once, and I basically, without doing any research on my own, I took it to heart, and now I do it to myself.
Have you ever tried neti pot? Do people still do that?
I used to, I've tried it before. It's not for me. If I really want to, if I really need a good amount of steam, I'll just go to a spa and go to one of these. You've got this spa downtown that I like to go to that's got these really intense steam rooms that really will just drain your head. Just take some deep breaths, stay in there for 5 to 8 minutes, and you'll feel like a different person.
That does sound nice.
It's all right, and I don't mind it. I've never been much of a spa person, but LA is a spa kind of town, and when in Rome.
Some friends used to have a sauna at their house, and I really, really miss that. Just having access to a private steam room. It was safe, but it was definitely a little bit janky. It was very DIY.
Right.
But oh man, forget the after party. 2 a.m. You're a young lad. You're done at the bar. You and your friends. You don't go to the after party. You ride your bicycle to your friend's house and you soak in the sauna and you sweat it all out. And they don't make them like they used to anymore, do they?
Well, if I was a younger man, if I was still a party person, I would probably be one of the people that goes to that, because this is a 24-hour co-ed spa, so you and your buddies can hit the clubs and then go and drain your heads and
forget about
24 hours a day. So that's not too bad. It costs about $50 extra to get in, get your pass for that time period, because I assume that the potential for a lot more mess.
Yeah, that's the upside of the private sauna, is that it only costs a little bit of electricity to operate. but you don't get to meet people and experience new things with them
Well, one of the
potentially.
I won't belabor the point too much, but one of my favorite sauna experiences was watching Marianne Williamson on the debate stage in the 2022 Democratic presidential candidate debates with about 8 or 9 other guys, all of us completely naked.
Ooh, that sounds like, 'cause that's an environment conducive to like consuming and or participating in politics. Like I'm sure they were doing that in ancient Rome.
Oh,
You know what I'm
absolutely,
saying?
absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I don't want to put too many pictures in people's heads, so let's keep talking about Resident Evil Zero on the Nintendo GameCube. And so you're at 100%. Are you 100% against the game simply because of the way that they biffed the storage and inventory mechanics?
You know what? For me personally, it falls into the class of games that I think is best experienced as somebody else's YouTube Let's Play.
Mm.
You find a nice, concise Let's Play, skilled player, or low difficulty setting. Heck, maybe even if it's just the cutscenes.
Yeah.
Although now that I mention it, some of the cutscenes are pretty janky as well. You got some random dude controlling freaky leeches with opera singing during a thunderstorm, and it's like never really explained. It just sort of happens,
But isn't
and
that
is
the soul? Isn't that the soul of these Resident Evil games? They're vertical ammo.
I mean, yeah, but like, it's never, it's a real jump the shark moment when some dude is just belting opera up on the mountainside and it drives the entire game. But it's not even explained as much as these things are typically explained in other Resident Evil games when you're exploring the subterranean laboratories and the mansions, which, of course it has both. But you don't get quite as much of even the in-game explanation. It's just kind of weird and gross in ways that hit the limit for me personally.
So what you're saying is Resident Evil Zero is a no from you.
Yeah, and you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that part of it maybe, and this is a small part of it, but I think
Mm-hmm.
a valid part is that those leeches remind me of some sort of weird dreams I had around puberty. And
I
I won't,
mean,
we don't want to dig too much again into these mental images, but I think there might be something there that kind of puts me off.
so what you're saying is that there's an undercurrent, a subtext to everything that happens in Resident Evil Zero that reflects some sort of, perhaps, I don't know if we could go as far as call it traumatic, but maybe at least problematic part of the transition to adolescence that you undertook.
Perhaps, yeah, yeah, exactly. Especially when I'm already, you get into the headspace of this game. You're a star team member. You're running through the foggy woods. Suddenly, you're on a train. Okay, and I will say that's the one highlight of Resident Evil Zero. Very strong train segment, which I appreciated and enjoyed, up until the point
And
that
let's
you
not forget
get.
those FMV backgrounds. Those new FMV backgrounds have a lot of really interesting little moving elements, and they really uh, went the extra mile to make those feel a lot more lived in than obviously the original pre-rendered backgrounds of the first 3 Resident Evil games.
Which pre-rendered backgrounds are already doing that to some degree, but I definitely agree. The environments are nice, although they're very there's a sort of obviousness in some of the interactions where you that breaks the immersion, where you can tell things are flat in the background because they potentially should obscure some part of a monster or the character, but they don't.
Well,
Um,
are you talking about playing it on the original GameCube hardware on like a CRT, or are we talking about maybe the more recently re-released Steam PSN
the new-
Microsoft,
the new
yeah, the
the
newer
new
ones,
Steam one, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
the
have the new
HD
Steam
update?
one.
So the difference between the polygonal characters, and I'm really sorry I'm sniffing so much, the polygonal characters and uh, uh, the pre-rendered stuff.
Yeah, they don't mesh well. Although it's not as bad as like if you think about the old Hanna-Barbera comics where you could always tell when some part of the background was about to be interacted with because it would
Mm,
suddenly pop out and be a little bit of a different color or saturation than the rest of the things around it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
absolutely, I know exactly what you're talking about. And if
Yeah, because
yeah,
there are some weird clipping things here, but none of that, thankfully. Not that there's a whole ton. Um, and then you get this wonderful train segment, and then they ruin it at the end by giving you the a couple of items that are basically necessary, but take up two inventory slots out of your six, I
mm,
believe. And again, there's no strong box. There's just littering. And there's also like you play both characters at the same time, but they don't. It's before they had really fleshed out a lot of those systems where you were able to sort of command teammates. You saw that a lot in later like cover-based shooters,
well,
where
Resident Evil
you're
5 as well.
okay. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
gotten up to that far yet. I'm trying to work sort of through the series.
Well, here,
Um,
what I mean, I wonder if they had if that was sort of a leftover from maybe a previous attempt at making those that because I it makes me think that I think that there's a couple of there's maybe one Resident Evil game where you can drop stuff in boxes and if when you do a replay through like as a different character you can pick up those same items. Is that am I making is that a selective is a completely invented memory or you know
well,
what I'm
we'll have
talking
to.
about?
We'll have to defer to chat because unfortunately I'm not a Resident Evil expert, but I think chat might be the Resident Evil expert here. That does sound pretty cool to be able to pass things between sort of characters or ostensibly even between playthroughs.
Yeah, I believe that's what I'm remembering.
That's so much better than littering, you
Agree on
know?
that. Yeah. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and give this Resident Evil Zero. It's still a yes for me, despite I'm gonna go ahead and agree with a lot of what you have said here. And I want to see what people in the chat say about Resident Evil Zero if they think it's a yes, no, or maybe.
Let's start back to you, chat.
Back to you, chat, and back to you, everybody. Who I think I saw that somebody is using drugs on tonight, and we don't condone the use of drugs, but we also don't shame for it. Oh, so we're getting a lot of no's in the chat for Resident Evil Zero, which is quite oh my goodness.
Well, it's
This is a true. I'm not gonna. I don't like using Sudafed. It dries me out way too much, and I think that in a few minutes I'll probably be right as rain. I think it's just that in the afternoon is when things start to get a little bit snippier. But we got a lot of. I'm gonna say this is looking like a no or a maybe from chat, Vertical Mammal. What do you think about that?
well, I would agree with those assessments certainly because I think we really focused on the littering, and that's because I do have a personal deep-seated hatred of litter and littering
Right.
that goes all the way back to one of my earliest memories as a child. Even earlier than these sort of troubling pubescent dreams is one of my very earliest memories where as a young child I'd had a piece of candy and not knowing any better just sort of discarded the wrapper into the breeze, for which my family immediately pointed out and sort of shamed me and ostracized me until I picked it up. And once I had picked up the trash and properly dealt with it, placed it into a receptacle, and I was reintegrated into the family unit. That really stuck with me. But that the littering in Resident Evil Zero is just sort of the tip of the bad video game iceberg, because there's a lot to not like there.
Mm.
Unfortunately, I think they made a lot of bold moves. That's I will say it has a lot of heart. Made a lot of bold moves, but
Yeah.
I think that while you can give them points simply for trying new things, I think it's really hard to when the actual new things that they tried are things that when you think about it for a couple seconds, you're like, no, that sounds bad. That sounds that sounds like a not good change, and we
Well,
shouldn't try it.
I'm gonna go ahead and call it here. This looks like a maybe.
That's fair. Yeah, I think
It's a maybe
it
from
sounded like
chat.
a solid maybe.
All right. Well, thank
Right.
you for your call, Vertical Mammal. We do have some other calls coming in, but I want to thank you for your call and thank you for your you and thank you for you game review to me.
Absolutely. Thank you for everything you do for us. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you
Thanks.
soon. Hello, caller. We got a new caller coming in. We got a new caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air with EGI, twitch.tv/EGI_2. You game reviews. Who is it? Where are you calling from? What do you want?
Hey, this is Tony from Walmart.
Tony from Walmart. How's the big box these days?
It sucks.
I'm sorry to hear it, but here you are on You Game Reviews, and you've got something on your chest. Let's get it off as quickly as possible.
I actually do. There's several games I thought about reviewing, but this is the one. It went through several checks and balances. This is the one I want to review. Okay?
Checks and balances, like the Economist podcast about U.S. politics.
Kind of.
Okay.
But okay, so the game is called Arx Fatalis. Have you heard of it before?
Oh, I love Arx Fatalis. It was actually we just talked about another of the classic arcane games on the EGI2 Stream 14 on Monday, which was, of course, the Dark Messiah Might and Magic.
Oh wow! Then do you want me to pick a different game, or should I keep going?
No, Arx Fatalis is. I like to call it Arx Fatalis. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but I think it just sounds a little cool.
It does sound cooler though. So to get the thing started, the whole world covered in darkness because of a dust cloud that's blocking the sun, right? So it's kind of like an alternate Earth type thing, you know? Well, it's like a different planet, but it's a fantasy medieval role play game, and it came out, I believe, before Morrowind, right?
No, I think it came out after. I think it was fairly close, because I know that, and the only reason I know that they were fairly close is because there was an Xbox port of Arx Fatalis that was how I originally played the game.
Well, it does feel like though it's way better than Morrowind in some ways, and not just the graphics either. It's like the story. I really enjoy the story. It's you have to find certain people across this underworld hellscape.
Yeah.
Because the world is ravaged by this really freezing cold because the sun's blocked, right?
Right.
And then all these races are now fighting for control of the land because it's chaos down there.
Right.
You know? And so there was things I like you can do. You can like do quests any ways you want, you know, like there was this quest where you have to stop a sacrifice, right? You can stop the sacrifice, or you can choose not to, or you can sacrifice the child yourself, right? You know, there's like multiple ways of doing this quest, and I feel like games don't do that anymore.
Right.
You know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that if there's any company that still does that kind of stuff, it's probably Arcane. I mean, having not played Deathloop, I know that I can't quite say, but I imagine that there's different ways you can approach various levels.
Right.
I guess it's a level-based. Is it a hub-based game like Dishonored, or is it a level-based game? Like, I wish I knew.
But Arx Fatalis ends on a cliffhanger, and I think that's another problem because Bethesda bought Arcane, basically, right?
Right.
So Bethesda doesn't want, Arx Fatalis to be competition to Elder Scrolls. So I believe they are forcing Arcane to not make a sequel.
But I thought someone was saying that they thought that they had heard that they are making a new one.
Yeah, but it took way too long, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and also
because
they will probably want the open world games that Bethesda's involved in probably take a lot of staff to kind of work, and they don't want to hire an entirely new staff for an entirely new open world game. Not to say that that's one way or the other, but that's probably why they don't do it.
Right.
It is level based. Thank you for Danky Danny Laundry for letting me out. Deathloop is on. It's on the list. It's on the backlog. It's up near the top of the backlog. So at some point I will be playing it, in relatively soon.
Now, there was two things I like gameplay wise. So you can look down and see your body in first person. That it has never been done before, I don't believe, during that time, right? Or not as well.
Probably not as well, but definitely there was at least least one or two games that allowed you to do that, including Trespasser, Jurassic Park's, or the Lost World Trespasser, which we talked about last week on EGI2's U Game Reviews.
Right, and then if they wanted to do virtual reality, they can go back and add that, and it would actually work.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of if there's a slight modding community, because I do think that Arx Fatalist does have quite a cult following.
Right, and then the arcane magic system where you can like draw the spell. I feel like this game was ahead of its time because this came out before virtual reality and motion controls, and those are two things that would go well with the current technology today. They were ahead of their time.
So what I'm hearing from you is that this is a yes.
Yes, obviously.
Well, it's also I'm going to go ahead. It's a yes for me. And from what I'm seeing in the chat, we see a kind of a close contest between yes and oh behave. How do you feel about the oh behave button, Tony?
Oh behave. What was that again? Can you refresh my memory?
Here, I hit it twice for you.
No. These guys don't know what they're talking about.
Okay, well, I believe it's former hold on for a second. I gotta go blow my nose. Give me a second, guys. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I have some issues.
No.
Are you feeling better?
Yeah, I feel like I didn't think that my mic was hot, but there you go.
Oh, and then
terrible thing to have to hear. I'm so sorry, everybody. These nose sounds that are happening right now are not. I'm not at my best. I feel fine. It's just that I have a runny nose.
Do you mind if I mention a couple more things about Arx Fatalis?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so there was it had actual cooking too, because like when I wanted to cook a fish, I just put it onto a campfire and cooked it. And then if I wanted to bake a pie, I grabbed the rolling pin, rolled on the dough, and then put it on the pan, and then put stuff in the pan, and then bake it. And I feel like that was insane. I'd never seen a game that old do that before, And games today do that.
It's such an interesting. It's so interesting. I don't think I even knew that. That's a wonderful little mechanic. They've got to bring that stuff back.
Yeah. So if you go to the goblin camp, you can poison the goblin by. Well, he eats pies every day, so you can poison the pie.
I remember this.
And
yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you have to make that pie though. You have to actually make it. That's detail that's not seen today. So.
Well, how are you feeling otherwise, Tony? Is are you now that you've gotten your Arx Fatalist review off your chest, are you ready to hit the Walmart?
I can list the downside. I mean, obviously it's an old game, so the controls aren't great. But that's the fault of being an old game. That's not the fault of. That's not their fault. That it was an old game, so I don't think games should be faulted for bad controls.
You don't think games should be faulted for bad controls?
Only if they're old.
I understand. Okay, now I understand. That is
no excuse for new games.
I'm so distracted because I'm so embarrassed that everyone heard me blow my nose as hard as I possibly could to try and clear things up. But I do think it helped a great deal, and now I don't feel the need to sniff on the stream as much. But hey, one time Allan left his mic on when he went outside to go use the bathroom, so
I remember that. Speaking of Allan, I'm sad he didn't get fatality'd. If you remember.
You mean a couple years back?
Yeah, he was supposed to get fatality'd on stage, and I was excited to see.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, the head just doesn't come off in the way that we want it to, Tony. But I want to go ahead and say it's a yes from me for Arch Fatalist, and it looks like a yes from the chat as well. So, Tony, I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight to you, and I hope that you have a better day at work soon than previous days, which have led you to feel bad about going to work.
Okay. Have fun with the stream.
If there's anything else that we can do for you, let us know.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Talk to you soon. What a good night so far. So now I don't know if you've noticed, but I've also started to add little gewgaws from you game reviews that we do on previous episodes to the background for this episode, and be playing around a little bit with that. So it's, you're in a way you're helping me to develop this show and help to develop the backgrounds for it. We seem to have we had another caller coming in just a second ago, but I missed the call. There we go. Caller, you're on the air with EGI2's You Game Reviews. Who are you? Where are you calling from? And what's your game review?
Hey, this is Alex, California. I would like to review for today's U Game Reviews Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman.
Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman. One of my all-time favorite titles to a game. I'm very interested to hear what your thoughts on Rising Zan.
So, it's interesting. This is the only game from Wet Systems who made the Cool Borders game that isn't a Cool Borders game, and yeah, it's an early attempt at a hack and slash, or at least I guess a 3D based one. I think there were like other games of that sort that existed, like Shinobi Legends at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Those are more like platformers, but it's an interesting look at, I guess, what action adventure games we're trying to go after until, God of War and Ninja Gaiden came out. So the controls, Tony brought up, like, you can't really fault the game, an older game, for having rough controls. Like, they couldn't really figure it out yet. So I'd probably give those controls a maybe. The story is a yes.
Story is a yes from story is a yes.
It's like a lot. It's very like nonsensical, but it's obviously trying to be fun with it. Zan is quite a guy. He's going out there and just getting rid of.
I know that Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman, was on the original PlayStation, but I believe that there was, if not I don't believe that there was ever a sequel, but I do believe that there was a spiritual successor on the PlayStation 2. Called something like, maybe it was just called something as simple as Samurai Western. Are you familiar with this?
Kinda. I think they are from a different team. Actually, this is a fun fact, but apparently the guy who created the game would later go on to work at Namco. He made Ridge Racers on the PSP, and then eventually, I think, Super Smash Brothers, which is kind of a long pedigree of work.
That is a pretty... What do you mean? Wait, it's not Sakurai. Is it Sakurai?
Yeah, it's not. But I mean, he was. I guess. Yeah, but I think it was. He specifically worked on Brawl while he was at Game Art.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And there was a whole thing of samurai kind of Western crossover things in the late '90s. I don't even recall there was a movie that had come out around the same time that Rising Zan came out, called The Six String Samurai.
Oh yeah, I think I missed out on that one. I got to note that one in it's Samurai Western or something on the PS2.
Yeah. Okay. So the one that I'm thinking of is called Samurai Western. Yeah. And I don't actually know off the top of my head if that same people or not. But that is an interesting fact because Rising Zan. I remember specifically seeing the ads for Rising Zan and thinking that this is either going to be a terrific start to a whole new franchise or it's going to be kind of a bit of a weird flop. And unfortunately, it was the latter for the folks behind that.
Well, at the end of the day, because it wasn't, like I mentioned, a sort of early look at what a 3D hack and slash could be. It sort of secretly paved the way for stuff like, I think Devil May Cry came out like a year after or two. Yeah,
so, that makes I'm right there with you, and but it also reminds me that there are so many great attempts. And I won't say if not all of them were great games, but there were so many great attempts at making samurai games during the kind of midpoint of the PlayStation 2 life cycle. You had stuff like Samurai Western and the Onimusha series, and then you had things like Genji, and then also on top of that,
Way of the Samurai. You had Onimusha.
3 Way of the Samurai games. Which is kind of a wild thing, and maybe one of those was, and I feel like one of those has been, Kengo. Kengo was the other one I was trying to name.
Oh,
so there's a lot of really good
I think
stuff.
Kengo was the Bushido Blade successor too.
Yes, it was absolutely, and Bushido Blade is I believe due for a sequel, 100%.
It has been a minute. I think Lightweight is still around, but it depends on if they want to make a new one, of course.
Well, I want to go ahead. I know this. I see that Scott from Pittsburgh has been desperately trying to call in.
But basically, Rising Zan, I give that game a maybe.
That's a maybe for me.
The controls did kind of get in the way, but it was still pretty fun.
It's also. It looks like it's probably a maybe from the chat as well. Certainly worth it. If for nothing else, the name of the game is great, and also I guess the aesthetics aren't that hot, but what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
Well,
but back to you, Robbie.
Back to you, Zach, and thank you for calling. I'm gonna go ahead and Scott, if you want to try to call in, I know you've been trying to call in all afternoon, evening, what have you. So I'm going to go ahead and look for your call if I can. And thank you, Zach. I feel like I want to just touch. I feel like the Bushido Blade, a possible Bushido Blade sequel seems so obvious to me, and it's shocking to the core that we haven't seen one, or not. Obviously there was Bushido Blade 2, and there was. Oh, it keeps sending Scott to voicemail. Scott, let me see if I can call you back. Can people hear the phone ringing when I do this? Is this something that people can hear?
But back to you, Robbie.
And back to you, Scotty Pitton.
Back to you. I feel I feel honored.
True.
And two, I feel. While I do love that you have made me part of the family and called me back and brought in my call, I do want to apologize to the caller before me, because I am no more important than they, and we're all on the same level.
Well, it's quite all right, Scott, because I do believe that we had I think that we had gotten what we needed to say about Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman out. And I'm glad to hear, and I was able to kind of make an educated guess on which number was yours, and I'm glad that I did.
And back to you, Robbie. I'm pretty sure that number has appeared enough times to it may be one of the three phone numbers that you have memorized.
I don't have it memorized, but I definitely maybe I can after the show we'll consider to. Might as well make a contact list for some folks. We do have some regular callers, but Scott, what's your news? And we obviously know that you're calling from Pittsburgh, and
but back to you, Robbie. And back not back to Allan because he's not here, but of course it is your old pal, friend of the show, friend of the chat, Scott from Pittsburgh, and I did have some breaking news. I've been foaming and frothing at the mouth.
Foaming and frothing at the mouth.
Waiting to talk.
Foaming and softing at the mouth. How about that?
Exactly. And I've been waiting to call you. I wish Allan was here to share in our good news, but I know that he'll get caught up eventually, if not by you, by me. And I had quite an as you know, and as the chat knows, I was having a little bit of a rough time and a tough time, and part of that was a lot of issues with my transportation. Oh. And at one point in time, Robbie, I had to call the old AAA, not to be confused with the AA.
Of course,
but
yes. I
called them up, and the driver of this tow, not only did he come in a very respectable time, but we get to talking, and this guy, Robbie, is the next to you, may have had the most excitement and the most knowledge of video games that I have met in person, and I hope that one day we will meet in person, so then I can say, well, this tow truck driver is the second person I've met in person to have this game knowledge. Huh. But very appropriate. He actually gave me a bit of funny video game news, and he didn't even know that he was doing funny video game news.
Right.
It wasn't in your standard format, but he said that he said there was kind of a running joke in the video game world in one of the games that he loves and has a very deep admiration for, and that would be the game I'm sure you in the chat are familiar with. I am not. It is called Dark Souls.
Oh, of course, yeah. Foaming and softing at the mouth.
Yeah, so he tells me, he says, this game, it's a pretty hard game. So the first game that comes out, and on the title it says Dark Souls, prepare to die. And then he said Dark Souls 2 came out, and its tagline was Dark Souls, prepare to die again.
Yeah.
And then Dark Souls was prepare to die again, and again, and again. Terrifying. And again, and I just thought, I know it's not your standard funny video game news, but due to the circumstances, I thought that it was a fairly good aha moment while riding with this tow truck driver.
Yeah, and it reminds me that. Sorry, I'm holding in the sneeze right now. Well, there's also, while I was holding in that sneeze, my thoughts shifted a little bit, and I was reminded that the people that worked on Dark Souls also made another game called Sekiro, and their tagline was Shadows Die Twice. So, Dark Souls, prepare to die. Dark Souls 2, prepare to die again. Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
So it's like a funny video game news within a funny video game news.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if there is in fact a what was the Dark Souls 3
from what I understand from what he told me, it was prepare to die again and again,
right,
and again and then one more again, four again.
And Uba Snork, who I believe is high on marijuana, has pointed out that they also made a little game called Frame Grind. So obviously, we're keeping everything in the family as much as we possibly can in terms of.
And back who, and I'm not sure who and Vertical Man with that. Thank you for that, because I as you know, I'm not a gamer, and it just it tickles my fancy, as they say, to know that it kind of came that it organically came full circle.
Right.
And also, bringing up Vertical Man, well, I would like to say, one, I commend them for not littering. I am also I do not like a litterer.
It's one of the easiest things that we can do to fulfill the social contract.
It really is, right. And and I will say, admittedly myself, as a young lad, I also did litter some, and then I ended up getting a job for the city. And if you've ever had to clean up the trash on the city streets, you will find that it is an impossible task, and it will make you despise a litterer. Sometimes I like to. I'm not a very confrontational man. I'm not like Allan. I'm not out here gushing. I don't gush and just take my vengeance on the street. But I do like to publicly shame the litterers, but in a very non-aggressive way. If I see somebody throw some litter on the ground by me, I will immediately pick it up and then I stare at them while I proceed to a trash receptacle, and then just throw it away, and then kind of give them a look, and then just like a little and turn around.
You got it. I mean, sometimes that's the best thing that you can do to obviously to keep yourself safe. But it reminds me of a story that my dad told me. Give me 1 second.
And
speaking about the gush, we do. I do appear to be maybe the talk about littering is igniting in me.
It's igniting a gush in you, which is understandable, and Estravia to you, Robbie.
Estravia to me, and thank you so much for. I'm not doing a lot. I promise to you, I'm not doing any lines. If anything, the lines, some kind of a line would probably be some powdered substance might dry me out for a few minutes long enough to get a word out. Good God Almighty.
But then I do have that. I know we should get more, but I do have a quick game review if you would like, Robbie.
Let's hear it. And I'm so glad if you ever find yourself with that same feller from AAA with the Dark Souls, the Dark Souls fan from AAA, then be sure to tell him about EGI 2.
Back to you, Rob. You better believe that I have told him about EG. I have told him about EGI 2. I've told him I think he should most certainly come join us on the stream. He did seem excited, although he didn't seem like he would follow through. But the good news is he was so excited to talk to me that we actually exchanged phone numbers so that he could send me recommendations for games and things like that. So I will actually reach out to him and say, hey, just a reminder, EGI 2 Monday and Wednesdays.
Absolutely,
and I like that.
I think we all like that. That is one of those one of the great intersections that you might have in your life. You never know. And back to you, I would like to say I do enjoy the new graphics, but as I said, I am no more important than anyone else. So I will give a quick game review, and I will let others call in. And I think that most people will be shocked by this game review because we all know I'm not much of a gamer, but I did game a little more as a lad. And I will say one game that held my attention along. We're going to go a little further back than we normally would, but I would like to talk about SimCity, or also known as SimCity Classic, that was released for, I guess I would have originally played it in school on a PC, but I do remember playing this game on I believe Super Nintendo.
SNES. Yep,
I think we both said it at the same time. Yeah, there was a Super Nintendo SimCity, and I think it was. Was it? I can't remember if it was a. Was it just SimCity or was it SimCity 2000?
Now I believe that SimCity 2000 may have been as well for Super Nintendo, but I'm a genuine fan of the original SimCity. I like the just everything about it. From the overhead view, I have a lot of patience in certain situations, but when it comes to video games, I guess I'm more of what they call like a running gunner. I just try to go through games fast. It's hard for me sometimes to take my time, but with SimCity, I would really, I would try to, if they told me crime was high, I went I went into Allan mode and I built more police stations. If I noticed that there was chance of more fires, I would build fire stations. I would try to make the town nice, have stadiums for the people to go visit, do things. But then also the plus of that game was it's kind of weird. You would take all this time to make this beautiful city, but then you would just send like a Godzilla in there to wreck it, or a tornado, because that was also part of the fun.
So you're saying SimCity on the Super Nintendo sounds like a yes from Scott.
It is a definite yes, but we will have to go to the chat to see what they say.
And I want to see what the chat says, but I want to say it is still a maybe for me. Even though you can't lie about the fundamentals of the SimCity games, I do feel like the shift from PC to controller was always a little difficult for me. But that doesn't mean that it's not a no for me. It's a maybe. Back
to you, Ron. I'm seeing a lot of yeses in the chat, which pleases me. But I would like to say that I can agree with you. When your buttons were limited when you went to the controller, so it was a bit of a shift and a change.
Absolutely.
Well, back to you, Robbie. I do love you. I appreciate you. I do want to apologize to you in the chat because I haven't been around as much as I would like to be, but you all are in my hearts. You all are in my dreams, and I promise. Much like Rick Ashley, I am never going to. I will never give you up, and I will never let you down, and I won't hurt you. I will be through periodically, and I love you all. Send my love to Allan, and also James. Thank you for the passion for trying to get me through as well to the chat, and thank you all.
Scott, we're all hoping that better days are ahead, and who knows, this could be the beginning of a new phase of life in which things start to go swimmingly.
I agree.
And if they don't, we all die eventually.
And we'll stay positive because positivity breeds positivity.
Absolutely, positivity breeds positivity, and I was trying to make a bridge between From Software and SimCity, but I don't think I can be able to do it because my nose is just won't stop running.
I'm wishing you a dry nose, and I love you, Robbie. You have a wonderful night.
All of our hearts go out to you, and I hope you have a good evening, Scott. Thank you for calling. We're gonna take a quick break so I can blow my nose again. I'm gonna turn the mic off this time, I promise, and we'll be right back. And we are back. I took the microphone off this time, so no one can say that they heard me blowing my nose this time, and I'm glad they didn't because it was a nasty one this time. But I think we've bought ourselves a few minutes. So caller, you're on the air with EGI2's You Game Reviews 2. What's your game review?
Hi, this is Pam from Denver again.
Pam from Denver. How are you? How are you feeling today?
Week. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay, except for the allergies right now. I don't know if it's because it's weirdly warm in my office or if it's just that time of the year. Gotta see how I feel after the stream and decide if I am gonna go to the pool or not. This is my pool day, and so the idea of sharing this effluence that is escaping me with the rest of the people in the pool seems doesn't seem like a good healthy thing to be doing to the community.
Yeah, it's the responsible thing.
Thank you. So Pam, what's
Yeah.
the scoop from Mile High City? It's a party city. People that love to party, love to be in Denver and party at a mile high.
That's absolutely right. I've been doing a solidarity fast, so I'm doing that
Whoa.
right now. Yeah.
What day are you on?
Well, I did take a break yesterday at the behest of my Palestinian manager. But before that, it was a week.
Gee whiz. Well,
I mean, it's sun up and sundown, which I don't totally follow.
Oh, right.
To the T, but yeah, so it's just while the sun's up. Yes.
I got it. Ramadan. Yes.
Yes.
Well, good for you. Doing.
Thank
that.
you. Feeling good.
But in this, obviously, in these heightened political times, you still find time to think about games to review, I assume.
That's right. I was wondering if I could, I guess, get your opinion on this. Since I don't play a ton of games, I was wondering if a game would count if I watched a friend play it as a child.
What? So
if I watched it all the way through.
This is what we might call this is a past life, a review of a past life. There should be a word for that. We've got to think of something for that. I think it should count. Razorhead Baby and I both agree about this, and I'm excited to hear what this game is and how it's affected your life.
Yes, so it was Shenmue.
Of course. Why not?
And it blew my mind at the time.
I think it blew everybody's.
Right. I had never seen a game like that where you could interact with the environment to such a degree.
Now, what was beyond just the sheer amount of interaction, and obviously you can pick up little trinkets and cans of Coca-Cola and turn them over in your hand,
right.
and then there's the kitten that you feed in the opening hours of the game. Forklift driving. What else? What other kind of weird stuff do you get into before you actually fight anybody?
You had to pay a phone bill.
You have to pay a phone bill. That's right. Yeah. It's such an it is an interesting game, and I remember playing it and then playing. I put it off playing it for a couple of years, and I played it and Shenmue 2 back to back, and I had the strangest dreams after that. For about a week, where I was with the girl with the hat and the smock or the scarf on, who's at the beginning of the first Shenmue introduction, and I was just asking her questions about what was happening and if she was afraid of what was coming next, and it was a weirdly dramatic conversation that we had in this dream.
That was a very dramatic conversation. Do you remember if she was afraid?
Something about me shifting?
Oh. I don't know.
Did it mess up my microphone? Okay, so... But
I don't know.
You're watching,
it is cutting out a little bit for me.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know if
that's just me.
That might be because the microphone I'm talking to you is a different microphone than what's coming through to the to the stream. Pam, let's hear your beyond just like the sheer amount of interactivity and maybe the sort of, it's one of those things where it's not quite an open world, but the illusion of being an open world is quite it has its own power there.
Yeah, I guess it's GTA 3 was maybe the first like open world game that I played.
I think for most people that's probably like the kind of that's where the line is set.
Yeah, but you're right though. It does I guess it feels more open than what it actually is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, I think, is all the more impressive. But I remember being very engaged with the story. We were very invested with Ryo. I forgot his name.
Suzuki,
and his
right?
love interest. We were. Let's see, chat. See if she comes up.
Oh
in
no,
chat,
that's you,
can
Suzuki.
help me, but.
Well, now I'm gonna have to look it up. But keep going, Pam.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
Okay, but I was very invested in the love interest between him and that other lady, and we were very disappointed that nothing happened with them at the end of the game. I guess spoiler alert. And then we were both very frustrated with the forklift driving. I'm not a big. I always hated like racing levels in games. And I can't remember if my friend did too or not. But yeah, I think that was just an extension of me disliking any kind of race level. And yeah, I think he collected a lot of the little figurines. I did watch a VOD of somebody playing it, Brutal
Right.
Moose. I think there's some Brutal Moose fans in the chat. And I find the voice acting to be still very charming, despite the fact that it's not really that good.
I agree with you there, and I gotta say, I think Shenmue 2 is such a perfect sequel, and I do own Shenmue 3, but I haven't gotten around to playing it yet. But I know that Yu Suzuki really wants to make at least one more Shenmue game before he kicks it, and I think I really do hope that he manages to, because there is something very special about those games. I don't think that they are particularly, they aren't going to win any Game of the Year awards, especially nowadays. But there is a special energy in them that I think is kind of inscrutable, and it's hard to pin down. But I guess you could say it has a lot of heart. And it's Shenmue's a yes for me.
Heart. Yes, it's a resounding yes.
And it's a yes from Pam
as well.
And I want to see what people in the chat say about it as well. But I wish there was a little bit of delay, obviously. But I'm seeing a number coming in a couple times. It's a 239 number, and don't worry, I'm gonna pick you guys up, pick y'all up anytime soon. It's a yes. It's a yes from the chat for Shenmue.
I figured it'd be a popular choice.
Now, and also, I want to say, if not to be diminishing the importance of what you're doing, but I feel like it's almost like the perfect game to just kind of zone. It's almost like a game that you can zone out to, and if you're fasting and you're not able to give a lot of your focus to a game, maybe some of the Shenmue games are good for that.
Yeah, because there's some like mystery elements, right? You kind of have to poke around and figure out the next step, or I can't remember what you had to find, but it was like in the house, in like some kind of locked door or something. And then sometimes you have to wait for a mission because of that time mechanic that's in the game that I also thought was super cool at the time, because I'd never seen a game that had not real time per se, but it had like an ongoing
day-night cycle. Yeah. Well,
like a day-night cycle.
Ocarina of Time, I believe, had it. And I think there was at least one other.
Okay.
Yeah, at least one other game that had it before then. But
and I think I read one time that the weather in the game matches the actual date and year.
Yeah.
That the game takes place, which was also like such
an interesting
small detail. Yeah.
Scott from Pittsburgh's trying to start a poll about his truck driver thing. Oh, good. I'm glad. Oh no, that's the Shenmue poll. But then apparently we're gonna. I'm gonna go ahead and. Whoa! Pam, this just in. Breaking news.
Mm-hmm. Whoa.
Looks like Oh Behave might be. Oh, never mind. Yes is back in the lead. Oh Behave for a second there looked like it might be. It might be an Oh Behave for Shenmue, but I might be I might be willing to go as far as an Oh Behave for Shenmue, because I think that it takes a lot of and Oh Behave is back in the lead somehow. Goodness gracious, this is not completely unexpected, because we have to. I mean, all those things, all those little points of interaction that you're talking about. I mean, it took a lot of time and it took a lot of energy away from, I think, what most people would just think of as, fundamentals and play mechanics, which draw people into the game. That is what makes Shenmue games so special, are those kind of non-intuitive choices that happen as a result of Yu Suzuki's vision.
Yep, like the guy the hot dog cart guy.
Hot dog cart guy? Oh yeah,
whatever.
I mean,
Tom?
Is that his name?
That's
He's. I mean, he's certainly interesting. And then of course there's just like those weird looking kids.
Yeah, they are pretty weird looking. You're right.
I mean, everybody in
And
the game is
you had
weird
to see
looking. But
the kids were. I remember them being a little weirder.
yeah, there's something
looking
about
than the
there
adults.
is something about
Yeah.
this bit of what the youngsters might call nightmare fuel. I mean, not
Mm-hmm.
the with the guy with the pointy teeth, notwithstanding. What's that guy's
Yeah.
name? Man, now I can't remember anything about Shenmue, but it looks like I'm gonna go ahead and call it right now, just because I want to. That it's an OB.
I think that's fair. It's your show.
It's an OB Hey. It looks like an OB Hey is well ahead in chat, so I'm going to go ahead and give it that. And Pam, thank you so much for your call.
Yeah. Back to you, Robbie.
Back to you, Pam, and good luck with the rest of the fasting. Okay, so we had a 239 number. I'm going to go ahead and try calling that back. Who's goosing what numbers? People goosing what numbers are being goosed? Caller, you're on the air with EGI2. Are you there?
Hi. Oh, am I?
Yes, you are. Hey, how are you?
Hi, Robbie. It's Cody from Florida.
Cody from, of course. I 239. I was trying to remember. That's another one. Maybe I'll flag.
I'm good. Am I on?
Are you on? You're on U Game Reviews 2. Are you there, Cody?
Hold on. I think I'm on two lines at once. Is that possible?
You're calling from 2 different phones? You're not.
Oh wait, hold on 1 second. I'm at the drive-through at Burger King. I have an online order for Cody.
You said
cool,
the
thank you.
drive-through for Burger King. That's breaking news. This just in, never been done before on twitch.tv/EGI_2. People in line at Burger King while calling into the show, and potentially reviewing games while you're picking up your order.
I'm down to clown.
Give us the scoop. What did you order there, son?
I got myself this $3 Whopper Wednesday on the app, Robbie. So I got myself an Impossible Whopper for $3, and I ordered myself a little extra buffalo chicken wrap.
Amazing. Trying to cover up whenever I need to wipe my nose with graphics there, Cody. If you haven't already guessed.
No, I'm not. I'm just talking to you. I can't even see the screen right now.
I want to say, Cody, are you you called in because you wanted to review a game?
Yep.
What's the game you want to review, and can you do it in the time before they make you pay for your meal?
So I ordered ahead on the mobile app, and they just handed me my bag, so I'm good to go.
You're good to go. Okay, well, make sure that you're not doing any distracted driving. Obviously, the roads in South and Central Florida are terrifying when you're fully alert.
You know what? It's a sunny day. Daylight savings time has the sun shining for my drive home right now. I have a bag full of Impossible Whopper, and I'm ready to do my game review.
Let's hear it.
All right. So I do play a little guilty pleasure as Grand Theft Auto Online. Grand Theft Auto 5 online, right?
I wouldn't necessarily consider that to be a guilty pleasure. I think that's a very popular game. I mean, and it would be the way that any other video game is a guilty pleasure, I suppose.
It's a pretty wide pool to dive into. There's a lot to do in the online. They've been updating that content for years and years and years and years.
So are you someone? Do you play do you roll with the team? Do you jazz with the crew?
I do a lot of what the youngsters would call solo leveling, but I do just kind of recruit randos if I do need help with certain things.
I haven't played any of the I haven't played Grand Theft Auto Online, but did play some Red Dead Online and enjoyed that mightily.
It is a joke compared to GTA Online. The amount of content in Red Dead Online is nothing compared to the millions and millions of dollars of funding that's been poured into this online experience.
I would imagine so. I mean, I don't see many people talking about Red Dead Online these days anymore, but I still see plenty of people talking about GTA Online. But the thing I liked about it was every once, you have these long stretches of emptiness, and then every once in a while something incredibly stupid would happen. And I'm sure that happens in GTA Online as well, but probably there's less empty periods of time between silly and stupid things happening.
It's actually nice because it's kind of like a throwback to the days of playing like a Call of Duty, being on like an online Call of Duty lobby where you just hear the worst ignorance and just really, really terrible stuff. You can hear it over the microphone. Grand Theft Auto Online keeps that tradition alive for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yes, of course, another reason why I never play Halo Online anymore. But
Same.
Cody, let's. I mean, you're obviously you're deeply invested in it. You do solo leveling. So you're not necessarily doing the full cooperative gangster experience, but you're obviously enjoying the game a great deal.
So here's a little bit of a twist, Robbie. I'm not actually reviewing Grand Theft Auto Online. There's a
Wait, let me try that again. What?
Arcade.
Wait, let me do that.
And it allows you access to a series of heists, which is based out of the arcade. But you can buy arcade machines, fully playable arcade machines for your arcade property.
Okay. I'm
here to review the arcade games in the arcade environment of. Are you all right, Robbie?
I just got a 6 out of 10 for my reaction. I'll try it again.
Just let me know when you're all
I can't
settled.
do it. I can't think. I'm so worried that I'm gonna like suddenly like a big drip of snot's gonna fly off and go on the camera or something like that. It's tough times, Cody.
How about the cicadas? Have you guys got the cicadas yet, or what's supposed to be the new? Did the plague come in yet, or what's the locusts? Are the locusts back?
The locusts in California, is that a thing out here?
I heard that it was like that the bugs are coming back.
I mean, probably. I don't know if they're gonna. Well, we had these fruit flies, which was an odd thing. There was a fruit fly issue, and they started coming at the same time that the city was giving out all of these countertop compost boxes that you're supposed to use, and then to deal with the fruit flies after they had given everybody the compost boxes, they released a bunch more fruit flies. So everybody with those who was putting their compost boxes to use were dealing with just a tremendous amount of fruit flies. But that's all the bug news that I have.
Interesting. So, are you ready for my review of the arcade games inside of the arcade in GTA Online?
Absolutely, I am.
All right. First one is Space Monkeys 3 is an arcade cabinet that you can buy for $300,000 of GTA money. I can't imagine buying a real life arcade cabinet for $300,000.
I can't imagine buying a real life arcade cabinet of any cost. I mean, those new ones that you can buy that are like $300 or $400 for you can get like Killer Instinct or Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or something like that.
Oh, the one up arcades.
Yes. Although, the spa that I go to, this is just an interesting bit of trivia. The spa that I go to it's not just a co-ed spa, it's a family spa, and they have a kids room, and they have a number of those one-up cabinets. One of them is the Golden Axe game that has to this day never been released on consoles except through there was like a weird kind of egret style mini arcade cabinet that they put it on. It's the Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder.
Oh, arcade Golden Axe, like not Genesis Golden Axe. Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. So yeah. Space Monkeys 3 is a parody of like a Darius or a Gradius.
Yes.
So it is a left to right bullet hell as opposed to a top to bottom bullet hell, you see.
Absolutely, of course.
And I would give this one, as far as GTA arcade machines go, I'd give it an 8 out of 10 because each boss battle begins with a little interaction between your Space Monkey pilot and the boss character, and there's a nice assortment of power-ups, so that's an 8 out of 10 as far as GTA arcade machines go.
And are the graphics primate based? Or is it kind of like I'm trying to remember like the fish shmup, the one with all the fish? Is that Darius? Is that Darius Gaiden? No, that's
I would say that the arcade machines in Grand Theft Auto Online are like pretty Flash animation level graphics.
Oh, okay.
They don't really break the bank on that.
They don't, but it's still. But you're saying it's still a good time. At least the shmup mechanics are. It is Darius. Thank you, male CTY.
It was made. You can tell it was made with love. Like I would love to be a guy in a video game company that makes the mini games for the main game. Like that seems like that'd be a fun gig.
Well, I think that that reminds me of how the new Yakuza Like a Dragon game has.
They just have full Sega arcade games,
full like AM2 and AM3 games, which I think it would have been a lot of fun to choose which ones are in that. When I do eventually pick that one up, I probably am gonna be picking it up simply because I want to play those games, even though I'm sure I could emulate them for a lot less money.
So speaking of which, you can get the Race and Chase series in Grand Theft Auto Online, which are essentially parodies of Outrun and Super Hang-On. Those can buy for your arcade in Grand Theft Auto, and they are pretty faithful adaptations of that as well. I would say that, that Grand Theft Auto is trying to bite off that Yakuza.
I think I like the idea, Cody, of just thinking about you wandering around amidst all this carnage that's happening in GTA Online and just going into arcades and just enjoying very simple but robust mechanicked shoot 'em ups.
That's basically been my experience for the last couple of days. And the last one I'll say is, and then I'll let the next caller. They have it's like a parody of a light gun shooter. It's called Camheads, and it actually uses the themes from Manhunt. Like all the boss characters and all the stages are based off of Manhunt.
That's cool. There's I can't sugarcoat it. They don't have a lot to add to it, but I think that's pretty cool. Because I do think that Manhunt is a franchise I do want to see. I want to see them try it at least one more time. I feel like they're right on the cusp of something great with it. And now that they're remastering the first two Max Payne games, I feel like Manhunt can't be far behind. Or some sort of reboot
I feel like that was very of its time. I don't think people want to touch that material again, to be honest with you.
I think I feel like it's a fair point. You could be right.
But I give the arcade and Grand Theft Auto Online a 6 or 7. I'll give the arcade and Grand Theft Auto,
which puts it over the halfway point, which makes it a yes.
There you go.
And
so if you have $400,000 of Grand Theft Auto bucks, buy yourself an arcade.
And it's a maybe for me because I don't have that, but I trust Cody's judgment. And I'm gonna say what the chat's hasn't had a lot of response to this for GTA Online, but I'm gonna go ahead and take the next caller, Cody. But thank you for your call, and we'll decide during the next call if what the chat thinks it deserves for the yes, no,
Hello?
maybe, or oh behave. Caller, you're on the air with ETI2U Game Reviews. Thank you for sticking around. And so sorry for all the sniffling and I finally felt like I got everything ready for this one. I really liked my microphone setup, and then all of a sudden I biffed it by having this terribly runny nose.
Robbie, it's Catherine from Philly.
Catherine from Philly.
The lighting looks
lovely
great.
to hear you. Thank you. Well, that's actually the sun.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
that's wonderful. Is probably the beautiful California.
Sometimes I feel like when the sun's on me is when my allergies get activated the most.
Yeah, isn't that like I feel like I've heard something about like photoreactive allergy reactions, where it's not actually like your histamines just they just start kicking at like extreme, like UV light. I don't know. I don't remember though the real details on that. But
well, we can't discount the amount of wind that we've had in the last few days in the city, but it sure seemed to really kick up a notch when I went into this sunny office to start blabbing with you guys.
That's interesting. Do you? Yeah. I mean, I also wonder. Hopefully, this is not the case for you. It is the case for me. We have very drafty windows, and I feel like there's always stuff coming in. So I don't know if that's your window situation, but
it's it's the one room. The office is at the front of the house, and it's kind of a sunroom. So it does, and it's got the oldest. It's the one room that we haven't replaced the windows in. So it's definitely there's definitely some stuff, which is one of the reasons why I got this little air quality monitor.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, as soon as we moved to Philly last year, that was when the Canadian wildfires were happening. So like it was like we were there for a day, and then the air quality was like deep purple, and I was like, oh my god.
That doesn't happen that often in the Eastern establishment, does it?
No, but yeah, and then that was the thing, was that a lot of people on the West Coast were like, this is the tip. Oh, you sweet summer child. They were saying things like this. No, they weren't really saying that. They were much nicer about it, and were giving information of like, here's how to build a filter for your house. Here's how to, yada yada. So we built one. I have a big box fan filter now. With,
I remember they would during the our last really terrible wildfire year was probably 2020, and that one had really that was when they started having a lot of news segments about how to build the box fan filters. But luckily for me, a couple of years prior, I had invested in Dyson fan air filters. So unfortunately, I don't have one in this. I took the one out of this room because my mother-in-law is visiting, and I wanted to make sure that she was comfortable. But now I'm slightly regretting it.
Well, there you go. I'm hey, hopefully you can get it back in there for next time. But also, I don't think the sniffling. I think it was really funny when people were saying that you were doing lines of coke. I thought that was a really, just like a thing that you can't. How do you prove it or disprove it?
I can't prove it or disprove it, but Catherine, I won't lie to you. I've done drugs in my lifetime, but that's not one that I was fond enough of to do more than the one time. So that's just a little bit of trivia, and it's one of those things where I was just like, I feel like if I did this enough, I would be a different person. And
sure.
I was still a kid when I did it, and I don't even remember. And the people that had it were not the kind of people I liked being around. So you just make your choice when you make your choice.
I'm glad you didn't walk that path.
Thank you so much.
I'll say that.
I like the path that I walked, which I did walk. I walked the walk that I wanted to walk, which was straight into video game performance art.
Yeah, straight into EGI2. I love it. So speaking of various crimes that one may or may not have done in the past, I'm also, I've used drugs as well. You know who else uses drugs? The Sopranos. I'm here to review Sopranos: Road to Redemption for the PS2.
Oh, right. I like that.
Yeah, and you know what? Sorry.
That's I feel like this game has been popping up a little bit lately I've started to see stuff about the Sopranos game on various YouTube channels that I follow. So it's exciting to me that I never actually played it myself, so I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, and so I was the same way until I played it. I had seen people talk about it, and I kind of half watched streams and was like, okay, this looks funny. And we recently watched it. We recently went through the series for the first time,
right?
Which was, I'm an Italian American person, so that was a really hilarious show in many ways, and also a very scary and real show in others. Whatever, right? Hilarious.
Absolutely.
Those guys, they love this stuff. But
it was Drill and Derek also played it on PIS recently too, so that might be one of the reasons why I've been thinking about it.
Interesting. Okay, so all right.
Sorry.
I have mechanical discussions. We're not going to talk about, because there's implicit spoilers in the story of this. We're not going to spoil The Sopranos.
Oh yeah, you can't. I mean, it's one of the few. I feel like it's one of the few shows that it's like Twin Peaks. Like you can't cross a line with it. And like spoiler alerts are still required for it somehow.
Yeah, it's one of those things that to go in tainted about certain things, it really changes the experience in a way that I think is, I don't know, when you're engaging with both of those properties without any, without a super firm grasp of like where it goes.
Yeah.
I think they can be really vibrant. Both pieces
I just
of
want to take
very
a quick,
American text.
Captain, let me just pause you for a second. We just got a big raid from somebody called Tom Hinks. Tom Thinks.
Oh,
so
what's up?
I don't know who that is, but thank you for rating. We were talking where this is EGI2's You Game Reviews, a call-in show where you game reviews at me. You tell the game reviews to me, and I respond to you with buttons like yes or this new one. And that, of course, is former Education Secretary Michael Gove, now the current Minister for Leveling Up Housing and Communities in the UK. So that's
the best photo you could have used.
That's the kind of show. That's the kind of show where you found yourself. It's a fun show. It's a party show, and Catherine from Philly is reviewing The Sopranos Road to Redemption at me, and then I make buttons go.
Buttons go, reviews go as well. So, okay, here we go. This is, again, not narrative. Although I will say, I do have something to mention about the narrative of the story, which is that it's written by the guy that wrote the Sopranos cookbook, as well as something, I forget, there's like another piece of ancillary Sopranos media, where basically for every like third-party Sopranos thing, they were like, give it to this guy.
Right.
And I love that. And it's just as, messed up. It's just as dilapidated as you'd hope from that guy. No offense to that guy. I'm sure he's really nice. Allan Rucker is the guy's name. Thank you, Danny.
Huh.
Anyway, if you've ever read the Sopranos Family Cookbook, you don't need to read it to play this game, but it helps. So the thing so mechanically, you start off, and it is immediately at the top level, it's a lot of cutscenes, and then there are that kind of interchanges between, and it's like there are some pre-rendered cutscenes that are like very Silent Hill-esque. They really look like that kind of plasticine skin of like the Silent Hill 2.
Oh, right.
And Tony just looks messed up. He looks like, if you imagine a character who is, like if a character in a story is represented like not as their actor. Does that make sense? Have you ever seen this in a story before? Where it's like, that's the person if they weren't the actor?
Sure. I want to ask one quick question, though, which is that is Sopranos Road to Redemption, is it considered to be canon? And the same way that they attempted to make The Godfather in the movie The Game canon.
Right. Yeah, so this is also Ghostbusters, the movie. The game is also apparently canon. It was written by Aykroyd and the other guy, but not the other guy. Holy shit. Ramus.
Well, he was dead, I believe, by that
time. Wait,
time.
was he dead by that time?
I think he was.
Well,
R.I.P. And that's probably the only time where that actually ever made sense.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, why not explore that in that way? I mean, the original Ghostbusters script apparently is like a Mobius-esque thrill ride, flying through various dimensions and multiverses.
Well, it's very very much based in Lovecraft derived fantasy.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's true. Because the Egyptian or like the ancient ruins in the end of that first. Well, anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not The Sopranos, but we can. That's interesting though. So I struggle, but.
Well,
anyway,
the demon, the first Ghostbusters, the name was derived from the name that is chanted out by the cultists in Horror at Red Hook.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. I haven't read as much Lovecraft. I think obviously modern generations struggle. I think with him for obvious reasons.
Yes, a fair thing.
I like a Chambers though. I'll rock with a King in Yellow. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I like a Vandermeer. If you want to count that in that same space.
I think I believe that I do, I've talked about Jeff Vandermeer and my connection to him on this show, right?
I personally don't know it. He's a Florida person, right? Do you know
this
person?
He's a teacher. He teaches at Florida State University, and I'm proud Tallahassee Townie. Florida State University is also in Tallahassee, and then the lighthouse in the Southern Reach trilogy,
the Area X trilogy, yeah,
is actually is based on the lighthouse in a park to which I frequent called St. Mark's. It's a part of a national forest system that we have there in northern Florida.
That's fantastic. I think there's actually a video of him walking that park and describing the things that inspired directly, and it's like you get to see it really vividly because it's exactly just the very thing.
One of the most beautiful landscapes that there is, I think, left in this country.
That's and what a place to set a story where there's a line encroaching on all of us.
Absolutely.
That being the untapped land.
But Catherine,
that.
you've got a Sopranos game to review. So we can't believe it. We can't get too far off the mark here. Talking about.
We can't wax about the marshes too much.
No. Although,
all right, how about the marshes of the New Jersey Turnpike?
Having been, or what do you call them? What are the Meadowlands?
Oh yeah, exactly. Okay, so yes, the Meadowlands. So, all right, immediately top level, it's like square, triangle, square style Yakuza combat, but obviously not as fun, right? Like if we want to consider Yakuza combat, let's say like pre-remake 2, right? Like Yakuza 2, like I think that's about where it lives, probably even worse. And then like swapping out, you're kind of like it's islands of pre-rendered or in-engine cutscenes interspersed with moments of this type of kind of bad combat, as well as 3D navigation, no jumping, but walking around in exact, scarily accurate duplications of the show's locations, including mirrors. So, not a spoiler, the Bada Bing exists. It's a strip club in the show.
Oh, right, yeah.
It has giant mirrors all over the whole thing, and they work.
Do they reflect each other? Are they the kind of? Can they reflect each other? Because I always think that's impressive when a game can pull something like that off. When you can have multiple mirrors reflecting the mirror. Forget what I'm saying. I don't think it does. But I'm right on the track with you there, and I did not even think to check, but I'm going to start checking for that now. That's interesting. No, I believe the way they do it is just duplicating the models and then reflecting it in the other room, or like in an adjacent 3D space that you're seeing through a kind of plane. And Pierogi University brings something up, which is that Capicole is actually the actual term, the actual name for Gabagool.
Yeah, Capicola.
Yeah.
Also, Comare is what you'd actually say for Gumar. That's the New Jersey. They say Gumar, but it's Comare.
Now you live in Philly now, but you've got a lot of these Italian words down pat. Are you Jersey native or perhaps Italian upbringing?
I am from New York originally.
Okay.
My grandparents lived in Brooklyn. I lived in Queens for the early part of my life, and then we moved to Long Island a little while later. So I've seen a lot of the different kinds of things of what upstate New Yorkers would call, the city and the island. I've seen a lot of that, and the tri-states, and I live with my grandparents as well. They're like from Italy.
Right.
For a while, they're really funny. My grandpa is he's straight up like Sicilian old guy. He like taught himself trumpet. Anyway,
wow.
Its own thing.
I'm sensing the connection to all this stuff is quite strong, and I'd love to hear it.
That's what I've just been so moved by the show that I couldn't not play the game. And then now it's like, oh God, it's weirdly interesting. Like because okay, here's the thing, right?
Okay.
back to. I know it. I would love nothing more than to continue talking about random stuff, but I gotta just.
We gotta zero in on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is that occasionally, as part of these in-engine cutscene moments, you get dialogue options, but it's separated between, I think, 3, which is, it's not this exact word. It's like feisty, neutral, and cool. But smooth. Okay, but feisty is not the one. What? Oh, it's tough. Okay.
Oh, tough.
Danny's helping me remember. But it's tough, neutral, and cool, or smooth. And they're all negligibly different from each other. Like all of it is, alienating socially. But obviously, if you're tough, like you're just gonna make everybody upset all the time, and you're gonna get into fights. Although all the fights are scripted, that doesn't cause extra fights. But there is a reputation system where, depending on who you fight, how often you fight, if you pull guns out in front of other made men, then people start to not like you. But it's really just like another vector for you to gain negative points until you lose. Like, because you either maintain a good reputation and you can continue in the game, but if you lose too much reputation, then the game ends. So it's more of like a stick style kind of punishment for not participating in the kind of RP space of The Sopranos, which I think is very interesting and kind of weirdly advanced for a game that otherwise is like just like the worst style of like fake Yakuza game.
Yeah, I wonder if we'll ever get a game like this again. This is such a weird time when they were licensing these properties for. There was not only the Sopranos game, the Godfather game, but there was a Scarface game that came out at the same time. There was Miami Vice game that was drawing from the original storylines.
Right.
Such an interesting period, but it seems like the Sopranos might have the kind of the most interesting take on it. Maybe not the greatest staying power, but at least they tried the most unique things.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's. We could probably design our own Sopranos game and have a better, I feel like it is almost, there are ways in which it is forced to be a certain thing because of the time that it came out in, right? Like, it can't be the interesting narrative game that I want. It's actually like a bad combat game with like
absolutely
Mass Effect style stuff tacked on.
Someone just reminded me that there's also the Reservoir Dogs game and the Warriors game. God Almighty, what a weird time this was.
And how much of it was The Sopranos coming to an end, mob stuff being really big at that time, and then the license stuff where it's like, let's bring back all these mob properties. Like I guess Warriors isn't really mob, but just like this kind of like this 70s through 90s kind of. Certain kind of, hey, I'm a sleazy guy, or this kind of thing, Yeah. But anyway, thanks for the combo.
And I want to say, so Catherine, I want to try to get one more caller in this evening. But Catherine, what is Sopranos Road to Respect from you? Is a yes, maybe? You can tell it's not enough.
For 1 hour, yes.
All right.
For 5 hours, no. For 2 hours, maybe. That's what I gotta say. That's the closest I can do.
And for me, it's a go behave. I saw somebody make that one earlier, and gosh, now I can't. Gotta remember to put the punny video game news button on this thing.
Hey, Michael Gove said, "Will the British economy survive the $70 AAA purchase?"
That's not his purview, Catherine. He's a Housing and Communities Secretary.
Oh, okay. So it would maybe be like, I don't know. I don't know anything about the British stuff. Obama is like, can the economy survive? Does that work? Can the economy survive $70 game?
That's one of the most interesting Obama impersonations I've ever heard, Catherine. And thank you for it. But
okay, no problem. Glad I could believe that.
Have a good evening. Tell everybody in Philly that they live in one of the top 5 cities in the country.
Oh, hey, thank you, Robbie. I'll let everybody know.
All right.
Hey, everybody.
Caller, you're on the air with EGI 2. You game reviews too. What's going on? What's your game review?
Hey, it's Nathan, not that one from Raleigh.
Wait, Nathan, not Nathan from California. You are Nathan from Raleigh.
Correct.
Nathan, what's from Raleigh? What Raleigh's? Raleigh's one of those places that's got great breakfasts.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some of the best breakfasts of my life in the Raleigh Durham area.
Nice.
So Nathan, tell us your and I think that we might also be I might try to get one last caller in after you, Nathan. I believe it might be Joe Botnick, but because I'm seeing an unknown on the caller list here. But Nathan, what's your game review?
So the game that I'm going to review is this little indie game from 2006 called Scratches. It's like a horror mystery sort of point-and-click adventure game.
I can kind of remember it. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the game, you play as this up-and-coming horror writer named Michael Arthate, who, with the help of his friend Jerry, has acquired a Victorian mansion in a small English town to help him get into finishing this new book of his. But when he gets there, he notices that he realizes that the mansion has had this really interesting history behind it, with a possible murder committed by the former owner, and eventually, like, his best friend disappears, his own son dies, his wife has mysteriously vanished. They believe that he killed her. So instead of like being there to basically write this novel of his, he starts getting more and more intrigued about what happened in the house.
Right.
And it eventually leads down this huge rabbit hole involving like African masks, tribalism, this thought that this guy has gone mad. And meanwhile, his friend who initially like gave him the place like starts fearing for his safety because he starts hearing like these scratching noises in the basement as per the game's title, and he's like, I believe either like I think the murderer is still in the house. You need to get out of there. So you have like 3 days to basically figure out what's going on before it eventually reveals that you might not have gotten that house legally.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. I remember seeing Scratches. I can recall not the post, but the box art so well, and thinking that, it might be kind of might be up my alley, but it kind of got overshadowed, I think, by games like Penumbra and Amnesia, which were also which were kind of like, I think, what most people kind of like look back on as being some of the kind of penultimate PC indie horror titles. Not penultimate. Penultimate's the wrong word, but the kind of the ones that we probably think of the most when we think of the kind of beginning of this kind of golden era of indie horror games.
Of horror games, yeah. Yeah, it was like, it used to be on Steam for a while now, but apparently it got delisted because the person who owned it lost the IP. So the only way you can get it now is through other means.
And I was trying to remember,
gives it like all this more mysterious vibe to it. Just like, oh, there's this old horror game that was made like off in Argentina, and now like you can't even get it anymore. You have to specifically look for it on shady sites. It's really interesting.
Was there a console release at all? I'm trying to think.
Given how it plays, like, you could theoretically put it on console, because like even though it's point and click, it's sort of like how you like do like Google Street View, where it's like you have like this like this 360 movement.
So you're not. It's not free. It's not a free movement kind of thing. Like again,
it's not a free
movement.
You have dedicated like spots around the house. You don't have like free control. You just different hot spots in each room that you can move to.
So it sounds like such an interesting game, and I really wish that now that you're describing it, I really wish I had taken the time to play it. Now I didn't realize it had been delisted.
Yeah, you can still find it, but like if you
take some work.
If you do want to get it working, you do have to download a patch for it, because apparently it doesn't fully recognize modern operating systems, and you kind of have to get it to, you have to kind of trick it into think that you're like on an era appropriate computer, because if you don't, you run the risk of freezing or blue screening.
I wonder if there's there's a game that they just put out, they re-released on GOG recently that had just gone through a bunch of licensing nonsense, and I wonder if Scratches is probably, if someone is kind of dealing with the same. I'm gonna actually I'm just curious as to see who actually published this thing. Give me 1 second. I've never heard of Got Game and Nucleosis. Can't say that I've heard of either of those things.
Yeah, they're like relatively
the Ruskies.
Relatively
now,
obscure.
yeah.
I think they've made other, like at least 1 or 2 other games prior to this.
The published the game developers I don't recognize at all, but Got Game has put out some games I do remember, like Nicopol and Arma 2. So those are both this is. I wonder if there was an issue. Well, when you've got the Argentinian patent system on one end and the Russian one on the other end, I'm sure that there's bound to be some friction.
Yeah, probably.
Not patent, but what is it?
But
intellectual property.
Yeah, like for a game of 2006, like it is very, very stunning. And the music is also good. Like it's a lot of ambient noise. So like when you're inside the house, like certain areas you can hear like the distant ticking of the clock. You hear yourself like walking around like on the hardwood floor.
Right.
Day 2, you're stuck inside because it's raining really hard, and like you can like hear the rain like on the windows, and like you'll occasionally see like some light flashes of light to indicate lightning. It's really, really moody.
I'm very so. This sounds to me like a pretty strong yes from you, unless I'm mistaken, right?
Oh yeah, it is. I would highly recommend it if you can get it working properly.
I would very much love to try this game out, but again, because of the serious backlog that I've already made for myself, and on top of the fact that it doesn't seem to be easily installable from various digital storefronts, it's a maybe for me. But at least my heart says yes.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And Nathan, thank you so much for your call. I think I want to try to let Joe Botnick in, because he's been kind of persistently trying to call us in. Call this
back
evening.
To Joe Botnick,
but back to you, Nathan, and have a wonderful evening. Joe Botnick, we're looking for your call if you're trying to call us right now, and that looks like it might be you there. Is that you, Joe Botnick?
Back to you, Robbie. It's not Joe, and I don't want to take Joe's place, but I do know, because Joe Botnick is my friend, that it wasn't him trying to call, and I don't feel it was in fact me, and I don't feel as though his toes have been stepped on. And I only thought it appropriate to call back to try and I'm assuming that these streams are going two hours instead of 3.
Correct, because I do try. Well, today normally I try to make it to the pool to get some core work done in the water there, but today it's going to still be around a 2-hour stream, simply because I don't want my nose to be running on camera anymore than it already is.
And back to you, Robbie. That's fair enough. And I do appreciate getting back through. And I did have to say, I wanted to say back to you and back to James. I think that somehow I may have inadvertently got myself blocked because I can call private, but I can't. But I cannot call from the old Scotty Pitten number.
Well, we've had a lot of calls coming in tonight, so it might just I'm trying to get as many people as I can, while also obviously we want to flesh out these game reviews as much as possible to get to the real core of the matter.
Of course, and back to you. I did want to say that there were a few people in the chat, and also, but before I do get into that, I would like to say I know that deep in my heart that EGI 2 would never block me. So I didn't want to come off as though I was insinuating that. But a lot of people in the chat were kind of talking a little curious. They missed about this tow truck driver, and since we're ending, I most
Might as
certainly
well.
won't.
Yeah, let's end the show. Let's end the show on this final exploration of the tow truck driver mythos.
So you did bring up the reason I had to call back is you brought up the game Ocarina of Time.
Right.
And when you said that, my ears pipped up as a Pippi from the Pit's ears would do.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh my, the AAA driver that did in fact tell me that his one of if not his favorite video games of all time was Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually told me that he has played this game. I want to say it was Ocarina of Time that he said he had played so much that he actually went through there something golden that you have to find in that game, kind of like Easter eggs.
Wait.
Or possibly another Zelda that has it wasn't the seeds that you would find in the new game. But something. I digress. He told me that he physically went through and found every single hidden thing in this game, with no guides, no books, no online tutorials, and that.
I'm sorry. It's the gold skulls. That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
The gold skulls. That is exactly what I'm talking about, Robbie. And then he said that game he was so disappointed because after he did it unintentionally got erased.
Oh.
So he's very sad about that. But he did inform me that he is currently, and I do believe that you will enjoy this and be a fan of this, Robbie. That he is currently replaying all of the Zeldas, but is playing them in chronological order. If I believe I have that correct.
Now, chronological, like order as in order in which they were released, or the order of the. Okay, so is the story order that they have
the story order? I do apologize. It's chronological would be the order that they were released actually in physical time, correct?
So you're saying that the AAA driver is not playing them in the order in which they were released, but in fact the order in which the overall story of the Hyrule peoples has been sort of laid out as according to the compendium, the Zelda compendium.
Back to you, Rob. That is exactly what I'm saying, and according to him, and this, I'm no expert, and I would always refer back to you because you are the expert. But he was telling me that he does. I believe he was telling me that the actual NES versions of Adventures of Link and the Zelda game were actually like towards the end of the series.
Yes, correct. And that's, I think that's a pretty impressive thing. Honestly, I've had to call AAA a few times in my life, and never have I had quite the experience that you seem to be having. Although,
back to you, Rob. It was an amazing. This guy was a true gamer, Robbie. He was mentioning games to me that I'm sure that I have surely never heard of, but I am willing to bet that you have. He told me 2 games that I would maybe enjoy because we talked about the things that I enjoy as well. It wasn't a one-sided conversation. Right. And he said two games that he did recommend to me, and I will defer to you and to the chat to see if these would be games for me. And they were, one was called Earthbound, and one was called Grounded. And I forget which was which, but he explained to me that one was basically like you were very tiny, living almost like in a backyard, and it was kind of Minecraft-ish, I guess, that you would like chop down blades of grass and turn those into maybe planks.
Not in this. I wouldn't go so far as like the full. It's not as fully construction. But yeah, Grounded. I think that you sound like more of an Earthbound person. If I were to make a guess for myself, it's something that starts simple but gets deeper and sillier as you go along, and I think it's also just easier on somebody who plays fewer games. And it is, and Danny Laundrie says it is somewhat evergreen, and I actually feel like it is one of the best examples of a game from the Super Nintendo era that has aged extremely well. And I know that you're also a parent, and I wanted to point out that a friend of mine recently played Earthbound and Super Mario RPG with their daughter, and had a great time doing so. And so if you're looking for something to play with a kid, then those two are up there with you.
Back to you, Robbie, and I will make sure that because Aubrey is more of a gamer than I.
Right.
So I will make sure these recommendations are as well given to her, and maybe we will bond a little, even, we have very close bond, but maybe we'll bond even more over Grounded.
Scott, let me pause you here. Giovanni H says you can play Earthbound with one hand, and I don't think that's suggestive in any way, but I just want to hit the behave button.
Behave!
I'm so glad, and I'm actually thank you, Giovanni, for mentioning that, because I am a very big fan of the behave graphics. So just any time that it comes up, it puts a smile on my face.
What I don't understand is that sometimes when I come back to the main shot, the Toasty guy pops up. Toasty! And sometimes he doesn't.
Well, I think, back to you, Ryan, I think that's just like a little, it's kind of like an added bonus. Sometimes you get the Toasty, and sometimes you don't. But it makes the time when you get it all that more special.
Well, and thank you for saying so, Scott, because one of the things I want to do with this particular version of the Wednesday show is to try to keep things keep building on the amount of buttons that I have to press, because I think the more buttons that you got when you're dealing with a call-in show like this, the best.
But back to you, Robbie. I don't know much about tech, and I know very little of Twitch, but I can attest that more buttons is definitely the way to go. And I know, before I do let you go, I do want to take it in a little bit of a different direction, and I'm just in this, because this relates back to I love that you always kind of give certain cities props and love, and I know that it's not fake because of the way that you do. I can tell that you have a love for, like you said, Philly top 5 in the country, and I know that you meant that. And I actually have kind of a very fondness and a love for Baltimore. I've never lived in Baltimore, but I've had a very dear friend that lived there. I would go and visit as a young lad. It really kind of opened my eyes to some new experiences. I very much enjoyed it. But because of that, you of course know that I have a very fondness for the Visual Arts Museum there. But of course, yeah. I have recently. I never knew of this band before, and I've recently heard of this band, and for some reason I feel like you would enjoy them and possibly know about them. But they are a Baltimore-based band, and they would have been they would have been around in your Baltimore prime times. And this band is Future Islands.
Oh, of course, yeah, I know those kids, every single one of them.
Well, Robbie, back to you. They are amazing.
Yeah, no, they're it's funny to think of them as a Baltimore band, even though they are obviously they've been based there for, must be close to 20 years now.
I want to say it said 2006 when I looked them up.
Yeah, so but I always think of them as kids from Greenville, North Carolina.
Okay, that's very. They didn't strike me as your regular Baltimore kids, so I was curious. But I mean, if we could, and I'm going to reach out on a limb, but I'm going to go ahead and say, I'd like to review. They have 2 great new songs. If nobody's heard, I don't know how new they are, but the Tower. And I believe it's say goodbye or say goodnight. And if no one has listened to this band or have heard these songs, they're both a tremendous yes from me.
Tremendous, all right.
and I think that if the way that the stream goes, it's about gaming, and in my mind, when I listen to Future Islands, The Tower, it is very much reminds me of a game. It almost what was it Nemo's Dream World? Was that a game?
That was
Nintendo.
Little Nemo's Adventure in Dream World, yeah, or Dream.
Little Nemo's Adventure in Dream World. For some reason, Future Islands makes me think of that.
That's well, that's wonderful. And so you're listening to these songs, and you're thinking of Little Nemo's Adventures in Dreamland, and which also that one gets a yes from me.
That definitely gets a yes.
I haven't listened to any of the new stuff in a while, but I want to say one last thing about the connection I have to Future Islands is that when I used to do Blue Leader performances, Garrett from Future Islands had written some of the background music that I used for these operatic kind of performances I used to do, where I would dress up like Cyclops from the X-Men and what do you call it, from the pulpit? I would pulpate? Is that a word?
From the pulpit?
Yeah, I would on stage. I would do it anyway. Those are my little punk points that I've got on my little scorecard that I keep in the back room there. And
Danny Laundry, you should certainly check out The Tower if you recently had a tarot card dream about The Tower. I would like to point out that the tower, the tower's not necessarily about the tower on the tarot, but it is. You will enjoy the tower, and maybe next week, Danny Laundry, we will get a review from you on what you thought about the tower.
Love to hear it, and if we can't get tower music, then we get tower defense game reviews. Next time we come back on EGI 2's Game Reviews 3, which I do believe that we're going to... Scott, I want to say thank you again for calling in and for giving us your thoughts on the music. It's lovely to hear to hear that someone who watches the show enjoys the Future Islands boys as much as they deserve. And I want to say a couple more things before heading out to the evening, which is that we are actually not going to be doing EGI 2's Stream 15 on Monday because I'm actually going to be on vacation with my family, and so I will be bringing. I will be trying to do some kind of streaming next week, but it won't necessarily be the same programming as before, as a normal week, and so we are going to be updating the schedule probably a little bit more from the hip. Rather than being able to give a great deal of lead time, and we're gonna. I don't like to say, we're not necessarily going to be taking a week off. I do consider it's kind of still a work week. It's not really a vacation for me as much as it is for the wife, who's been dealing with the brunt of the rolling illnesses that my son was dealing with over the last month or so. And so for that information, I hope you have absorbed it. And again, sorry for being a little distracted this evening. In fact, the crazy thing is that now that we're wrapping the show up, Nose isn't running anymore. So be kind to each other and hold close to you the ones. Hold dearly the ones that you hold closely the ones that you hold dearly. And also, I can't believe that we spent so much time talking about The Sopranos' Road to Redemption. Good night.